Hi everybody, welcome to the dungeon. My name is Robin and today is Flameworking 102.13. Today we're going to talk about shards and blowing shards out. And I have to honestly say that this is one technique in all the years of my flameworking that I have probably never done. I can't remember ever making shards in flameworking before. I would make them when I used to blow glass on a large scale, but never on a small scale like this. So I'm really excited to give it a try. This is really like opening up a can of worms. This is like opening up a whole new way to add color to your glass, and it definitely deserves a part two. So I'll see you next week for part two, shards. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoy this and start playing with some shards. Get yourself a little miniature blowpipe and you will be off and running. So without further ado, let's get right into this. I hope you're all doing safe and well out there. Thanks so much for joining me, and I'll see you all next week in the dungeon. Okay, so I'm going to start everything on this little blowpipe, and this is just a 12-inch stainless steel tube, and the opening is a 1/4 inch or 6 millimeters, and you can find these online or you can make your own. And what I'm going to do here is just heat up the tip of my pipe. There is some bead release on this mandrel pipe, whatever you want to call it, depending on what you're going to use it for, but I use it for different things, so that's why there's bead release all over it. Anyway, I'm going to just heat some of this intense black up and add it right to the top of the pipe. And I'll add a little bit more until I have enough, like maybe a little bit more than a pea size. Remember, we're going to blow this out very thin, so you don't need a whole bunch. I'm going to roll it out and just start to heat everything up. Make sure it's nice and smooth and forming a nice ball of glass on the end of your little pipe here. And I'm heating it from the side so I can get the maximum amount of heat into the glass. I want to make sure that all the glass is the same heat so it blows out evenly. And when I go to blow it out here, I am continuously turning my little pipe so the glass doesn't fall. Think about gravity. And then I will gently start to blow it out until I have a nice bubble of color here. And then I will just cool down the very top of the metal part of the pipe. And if you wait a couple minutes, it should just fall right off. Now, once you have your bubble shard made, it's very easy to break apart with your tweezers or your fingers. It also cools down very quickly so you can handle it. There will be thin pieces and there will be thicker pieces, and each one will give you different reactions, especially using this intense black. Now let me show you what also can happen when you're not used to blowing shards out. So if you blow something out and you have a blowout like this and things just are not working for you, no worries. Just go ahead and push all that glass back onto the top of your little pipe there and get everything back into a round in a nice heat and just start over. You can do this as many times as you need to until you get the shard that you're looking for. Some colors are stiffer, some colors are softer, so it really depends. Every time it might be a little different for you. Just be real careful when you start to blow out your glass, because what I'm doing here is just, again, turning while I am blowing. And then as soon as I see a bubble start to happen, and it can happen really fast, I want to ease up on my blowing and then just be real soft about blowing it out. And this is a really nice thin shard, and it kind of looks like a kidney. But either way, I'm just going to kind of push it into my little tiny cup here and start to break off these pieces. A lot of the glass stuck to the mandrel, so I was impatient and just wanted to get it off there. So here's our shards, ready to go. Okay, now to start the bead out, I'm just going to use an ivory color. So I have 3 colors that are reactive colors. There's the ivory, the intense black, and the double helix Triton. And that's all I'm going to use for this bead. Just these colors alone is going to be enough. And also when you're adding shards, you kind of want to think less is more. The more shards you add, the more muddier it will look. So it just kind of depends on how you feel that day, on how many shards you want to add or how much you want to apply to your glass. Okay, so I'm just going to start this bead out by wrapping about an inch or so of glass on my mandrel and then rolling it out nice and evenly. And then I'm going to add 2 more wraps of the ivory on top. I want to build a nice big solid bead here. And the quickest way for me to do it is just to do a coil wrap. And as I am wrapping this glass onto the bead, I'm also turning my glass rod back and forth in the heat so it will give me a continuous flow of glass onto my bead. And then it's much quicker to heat everything up into a nice smooth bead. And then you'll be ready for the next wrap of glass. Okay, so now that I have all my glass added, I'm just going to go ahead and heat all of this up, trying to maintain the same shape, a nice wide oval shape. I'm not worried about the edges pulling in a little bit because at the end we will be flattening this out. So I'm not worried about having nice crisp edges here. So now, as this is cooling down a little bit, I'm not going to roll it out. I want to keep the heat in the bead while I pick up this shard. And I'm just going to pick up an interesting shard here and just press my bead right onto it and gently give it a roll so I get a good amount of the shard sticking to my bead. And then I'll go right into my flame, and this is really interesting to me because the glass that's not actually touching the bead will melt in the flame and give you a really beautiful ragged edge. If you pick up a shard and lay it right down onto the bead and secure all the edges to the bead, you'll get, what am I trying to say? You'll get nice and crisp edges. Especially here when I'm picking up the black, these shards are small, so the lines that form the shard will secure themselves to the bead, giving you a straight line. Either way, you're going to be picking up these shards. Try not to pick up too many. Like I said earlier, a little goes a long way with shards. Okay, I am going to pick up this one more because I see a bare spot right here, and just grab that. And if I am picking up a shard that is on a concave area, you might get a little tiny bubble trapped underneath that shard. And it can look really amazing because as you're working it, that bubble will pop and give you a really nice little tiny circle in the middle of your shard. So before I add the rest of my shards, I wanted to kind of break things up using a intense black stringer, and I just want to wrap it around my bead very organically or abstractly. So luckily for me, I'm shaky and that wasn't a problem. So I'm just gonna, kind of get this wrapped up and down the bead just a little bit. And the interesting thing here is that the intense black and the double helix will also react with each other. So this will give us even more of an interesting effect. Now I'm ready to pick up my final shard. Well, almost my final shard. And just add it to my glass. It's so fun to add these shards and to get those ragged edges. Now this last shard I'm going to pick up, I'm just going to place it right onto the bead because I'm grabbing a thick part of the shard here. So there's lots of different ways that you can place shards. You can use a tweezers, you can use your fingers, or you can just pick them up right off of the table. Now to break this off, I'm going to use a knife. So that just will pop right off, and then I'll be, we're good to go. We have all of our shards here. Now all I have to do is give everything a really nice heat and roll it out a little bit to smooth everything out. So I'm looking to get everything nice and smooth and a really nice heat, and then I'll find the most interesting part of my bead and flatten it out. And I think this really turned out great. I love it. Almost kind of looks like a landscape on that side. So I'm going to flatten things out, and you'll notice there is a chill marks on the surface of the bead here. So it's really important that you heat all of those chill marks out on one side, and then I'll just kind of blow to cool that side down. So when I heat the other side up, the bead isn't melting too much. So make sure that once you heat one side, you cool it down and then proceed to the other side. And that's about it. I mean, this bead came out so fast, so amazing. Every single one is different, as you'll see in the final pictures. But before we put this in the oven, I want to give it a nice reduction. So we're going to go into a reduction flame. I don't know what it's going to look like, but we'll see in a few seconds here by the wonders of YouTube and editing. And that's it, you guys. This is a great bead. I hope you like it. I hope you enjoy it and try some shards. And there's so much to do with shards that I'm going to bring you part 2 next week. And I hope you all enjoy. See you then.